Wherefore, Part 24. Humans think best about entities with names. Empathy often depends on it. A name we can voice is the basis for a whole sense of identity. It is the beginning of a relationship. How then can you relate to one who is older than any name your tongue has ever shaped? How do you empathize with a being who is deep in the earth, who has become as much a dream of the land as the person they once were? How can you understand identity in terms of 10,000 years of longing for ice? How can you form a relationship with the person who dreams of prehistory, who is wrapped in the land and dreamed by the land, and when that land in turn is dreamed by countless oolites? You cannot do these things. And so we will name the dreamer beneath the hill, and for the sake of brevity and familiarity, we will call this dreamer Bob. Of course, the question of who is dreaming whom is complicated. You may ask if I dreamed Bob for you, or whether he has some independent reality of his own. Either way, he is now part of the world you are dreaming into being, and you know how real your own dreams are. Why now, you may ask? Why, after 10,000 years or so of missing the ice, does Bob dream so fiercely that the hills are alive with the memory of lynx, aurochs, and all else that lived along the frozen margins? The temperature deep in the hill does not change. The ice was never there. The warming of the land and sky does not impact here, not as temperature. But it is present in the memory of water. It is in the slow, mournful songs the oolites sing to each other down through the layers about the poisoned sky and the loss of species. It is the way a lark's song filters down through limestone, full of stories of loss. The ice has never seemed further away. The need for cooling is urgent. There are dreamers under every hill. It is in the nature of hills to need their sleepers, heroes, once and future queens, chthonic gods. Sometimes the queens are also dragons. The gods, giants, heroes all get their stories muddled in together, but the hills do not care exactly whose bones they are, so long as there is someone to dream with, some idea to hold tight to in the heart of the hill, to cling devotedly to through the millennia. Otherwise it can be a lonely business, being a hill. And when hills are lonely or worried, they get restless. This is never good news. There is a loneliness that comes from an absence of ice weight on the shoulders of hills. Bob feels it as keenly as the hills do. The longing for the old ways, for the people of many skins who no longer walk here, for yearning caused by the absence of hooves and claws and large, large teeth. It is a grief that sits heavy on the hills now, where there should be ice. Everything must change. Everything. It is vital. The ancestor who dreams beneath the hill, who is dreamed by the hill, is restless. No one knows what will happen if he wakes. He is not supposed to wake. The king who will return is never expected to show up in person, because if he returns, we have reached the last desperate hour and we are close to the end of everything. But the truth, dear listeners, is that we are, indeed, close to the end of everything now. And the dreamer stirs. If he returns, it will not be for some final mythic battle between human opponents. The time for that story has long since passed. It will be for some event beyond imagining. There are giants in the hills, insubstantial for now and visible only to those who know how to look. They are born of old stories and the restless unease of hills. It is an odd marriage and unlikely coupling. Night by night and day by day, these vast offspring wander. They learn who they are, one experience at a time. They walk themselves into the world. Like other new things, they sleep for extended periods, days at a time even. They curl into the welcoming curves of valleys, make pillows out of ancient barrows. They lie out on the hills so that the rising sun will warm their limbs. They prop their vast bodies against the edge of the escarpment to watch the moon set. Huge though they are, the giants also walk through the dreams of sleeping people. Striding from one unconscious mind to another, they pace out the short summer nights. There are some people who wake from sleep to weep uncontrollably, remembering a tree or a dog that they loved in childhood, now lost to them. There are those who wake full of hunger and the knowledge there is no substance that can sate them. Some, having dreamed of a giant wading in the Severn, will go out the next day to find running water. The compulsion to stand barefoot in a stream is strong. The urge to walk barefoot on the earth or lie naked in the long grass of the common is widespread. Also, the need to find rich chunks of limestone and lick them. It is harder for the wizards, stranger. They are more sensitive to begin with, and the giant's emotions of magic striding through landscape and dreamscape alike. In his tower, the wizard William is ready for this. He is not overwhelmed by giants and has planned how to keep them beyond arm's length. Their arms, not his. He watches them with detached interest. The wizard Wambleforth stands in the foam and feels the river running to meet the Severn, and the giantess there who has curlews in her hands and eels coiled around her calves. Wambleforth weeps a little for the beauty of it, knowing those tears will flow to the great river and meet the magic growing there. The wizard Wigstan is out in the hills. He has felt the urge to lie down in the landscape. He has felt the powerful awakening of the land as curves of hills become giant flesh. He has fallen in love with hillsides before and will not be seduced out of his wits by the lusty presence of giant women. But he does not sleep well at night. There are wizards for whom the giants feel like a threat, and wizards who feel old in their bones in face of this and outdated. There are wizards who hear the restlessness of the dreamer and who talk to the oolite, hoping to charm him back to sleep. The 7 are busy. The story of the 7 wizards of Stroud is an old story and well established. It has been nurtured over many generations by wizards, and largely it works to stop people who have no business tangling with magic from getting involved. The 7 wizards tend to feel that no one else should be doing magic on their turf. Bob is older than this story. It means nothing to him. His restless dreams demand all the magic that can be breathed into being. These are dreams to stir the souls of any that experience them, dreams of cooling the world and of bringing back the lost. Dreams of elk and beaver, of wild cranes and wandering bears. There are people who wake up wondering who they really are. People who wake up questioning their life choices, looking at their once loved cars with disdain and seeing futility in the lives they have been leading. Some of them will go mad. Some will join cults and undertake actions that do no good at all. Some will shave their heads and paint their faces with dirt and ashes and not know why. Some will become wizards. At first this confuses them because there are only 7 wizards, and clearly they are not wizards. And yet, the dreamer's intentions rise up through the hill. The power of 10,000 years of yearning is hard to resist, and Bob is set on re-enchantment, on repopulation, on remembering. Of course, some of this goes disastrously, hysterically wrong. There is, for example, a new wizard called Dave who dreams he is travelling the 5 valleys on a giant penis and who falls so utterly in love with that idea that his waking self can only enact the enormity of that penis at every turn. And there is a would-be wizard called Tim who sees himself fighting a monstrously dangerous rabbit and wakes up wondering if he has based his entire life on a Monty Python film, and whether he would be less interested in wizardry if Samantha Bauer from his French class had turned out to be willing to show him her tits. Tim wakes in a cold sweat and thinks about his personal demon and his life choices, and feels sorry for himself.